So dudes, welcome back to the Gregor gaming experience.
One enemy remaining.
Sova is one of the best time wasters in the game to start off Waster Time 2022.
I still can't get over that owl, Sova. It's too cute. Why is it so cute?
Be quiet.
What the hell?
Protect our homeland.
Sova's kit is almost tailor-made for post plants. Uses ult and shock arrows from safety and distance to deny plant position, and his recon arrow to take out the enemy diffuser if you have the opportunity. He's also great at setting up engagements for your team. He only has one ability that does not grant wall hacking intel in some way, shape, or form. And since either he or his teammates can act on this intel, he's a very good flex fragger support type character.
Go tower. One more. Oh, you're so good!
Sova's signature recon dart is pretty self-explanatory. He fires an arrow from a bow. Wherever that arrow lands, it'll send out a ping and scan anybody within its line of sight. It does so in pulses, meaning that it only scans the static location of where the enemy was when the pulse scanned them, but it sends it out a few times. Sova himself can adjust the speed and momentum at which his arrows are launched. This applies to his recon and his shock arrows, which I'll get to later. It's either a click,
Revealing area.
a 1 bar,
Revealing area.
a 2 bar,
Scanning ahead.
or a full charge.
Scanning
All
ahead.
intel is useful intel. Even if the enemy shoots your recon dart before it gets scanned, you can also pay attention to the type of gun the enemy shoots the arrow with. If it's shot out with a pistol, and the enemy doesn't have that much money, it probably means they're on an eco round. Likewise, if you hear a Vandal popping off, then they probably have rifle. More intel is still better than a little bit of intel, though. The higher elo you get, the more likely it is for the recon dart to get shot out. If it gets shot out before sending out its first ping, it's not really going to give you any information aside from, well, somebody shot it. Skilled players are going to take into consideration you're up on the board and anticipate the sound the arrow makes as it's traveling. Learning lineups can do more than keep you safe while using your ability. They can also make your arrows more difficult to react to. Fully charged arrows will travel faster than less charged arrows, making them more difficult to take down. So more speed, generally, is better with the recon darts. Another thing to consider with the recon arrow is that its most effective counter is smokes of any kind. For instance, Jet can smoke the arrow, blocking its effective radius to just everything within the smoke cloud. This can work to her teammates' advantage, because if she smokes off the arrow, you won't be able to tell from a far distance, and this can trick you into thinking the arrow hasn't picked up anybody, when in reality, there's a Jet with an op waiting to sniper elite you. However, on the flip side, this can be used to your advantage on opponents that you presume are behind or inside a big zone of smoke. This thing is very good at dealing with Viper ults. So if you see a Viper with their ult charged up on the other team, I would advise keeping an eye on your recon arrow usage to have one ready for the ult pop. I would also advise liking the video, if you're learning something so far. Cyberpunk Legolas has more than one type of arrow in his quiver. He can also fire up to 2 damage-dealing shock arrows from his trusty bow for 150 creds a pop. Everything about the recon arrow applies to the shock arrow in terms of the physics of it, how you can bounce it, charge it, bop it, etc. The impact of a shock arrow will deal up to 90 damage to somebody provided they are within the center of its blast radius upon detonation. Like the recon arrow, these arrows make a sound that can make enemies move out of the way, but that's not a bad thing either. As an area denial tool, these arrows are useful for their ability to force enemies to move, or to punish them for committing to a certain kind of play. Shock arrows are useful for preventing spike diffuses on attack, preventing spike plants on defense, and for clearing common holding spots, especially enemy op users. The thing about Sova's kit, especially on defense, is that you should try to stay alive and keep that util for plant situations. A common mistake that I see Valorant players do is assume that getting a pick is enough to make up for reckless positioning on defense. In Valorant, the spike can be planted in 4 seconds, but it takes 8 seconds to defuse it, so if a fast execute takes place with a spike plant, the momentum is on the side of the attackers, even if you got your pick. Basically, dying on site by yourself without a pick sucks. Doubling back if the engagement is too hot, and then shock arrowing the guy who's planting the bomb is even better. Because then you're alive, and your teammates can retake with you. I know every round is different though, and I'm not a Valorant coach. This is just a general idea of what to do. Don't die on site by yourself. Don't swing A main, get a pick on a random guy in a 1v3 and go A main, A main, A main. Instead, quick peek for intel from a safe position, realize there's a 4-man execute happening, double back to safety, deny plant with your shock arrows, and play retake with your team. The trick to shock arrow lineups is to have 2 of them sync together to potentially kill the enemy planting or defusing the spike. If one arrow lands, and the other one follows up behind it rather slowly, it'll stop plant. But that's not as cool or humiliating as chaining them in a way that they land close to the same time. You're usually going to be closer to the spike, so getting a high arch with less power is usually better. So either a 1 bar and a click shot, or a 2 bar and a 1 bar. Son of a... Don't break your back studying Sova lineups for an exam. But keep in mind that they add a lot to your gameplay and let you position yourself in a way that not many agents can. Don't feel limited to stuff you find on YouTube either. There's a near limitless amount of potential concerning lineups with Sova's bow. If you want to start a serious journey to Sova mastery, I'd suggest checking out Average Jonas. Not sponsored, I just can't get too specific in this video without making it too long. Sova's drone is a one-time use ability that costs a pretty steep 400 credits, but there's a reason that it costs this much. Siege players know all about the benefits of having something peek at no cost to you. Aside from gathering intel, the drone can fire a tracking dart on enemies, and it just so happens to be hit scan, unlike Cypher's camera dart. The drone will turn whatever direction you aim at, move with WASD, and go up and down with the space and control keys, respectively. It moves pretty slow, makes a lot of noise, and it's a big giant target, but its dart makes for intel that your team can follow up on very quickly, or provide you with a target to use your ultimate on. You kind of see how Sova's kit is designed in a way to reward passive play. All of his abilities can be used from a safe distance. That's why he's not a bad pocket opper. Although the more infamous combination with his wall hack granting abilities is wall hacks and an LMG. The drone's pretty easy to use, but costs a lot of money. So try to get the most out of it and hit that dart on the enemy. Try to pre-aim as this thing goes around corners. It takes a couple of rifle shots for this thing to go down, so you can tank a couple and then hit the dart anyway. You can use it to apply pressure to the enemy during a retake, and to scout ahead and tag bad guys on common holding spots on attack. Or just go down a lane for intel if you anticipate a certain kind of play. For 8 ult points, which is a lot, Sova can ascend to the Russian Hanzo power level and deal damage to enemies through walls with up to 3 fuck you stop defusing the spike blasts. This ult is pretty freaking powerful, and there's a reason that it costs 8 points. It can delay when you've planted the spike, can be used to stop spike plants, and can stop defensive pushes right in their tracks. Or quickly take care of bad guys in spots that you've tagged with your recon arrow or drone. One blast of this ability deals 80 damage to somebody, and you kill with 2. The catch is the enemy can obviously hear you yell your ult line, and there's a giant red cone of oh fuck that indicates where Sova is about to fire. Jet can obviously dash out of the way, Raze can blast pack, Chamber can teleport if he's in the right spot. The ult also tags enemies whenever it makes contact though, allowing you to more conveniently hit that follow-up shot, so if somebody doesn't have movement abilities, you can probably kill him. It shoots with a pretty wide radius, so it's possible to hit multiple people with this ability. It's a multifaceted ability that can provide area denial to any point on the map you want very quickly, but it also leaves you vulnerable while it is deployed. You can disengage it if you feel threatened, but it's going to take a second for you to get your gun up again. I got lucky in that clip, but you get the idea. Sova's biggest weakness is that whenever he uses his abilities, he puts his gun down, and he takes time to get it back up.
Nice, good shit.
Overall, Sova is just one of the best characters in the game, except on Split, because there's too many freaking buildings in the way. But on wide open maps like Breeze, where he can take advantage of his recon arrows, he's great.
Bullseye.
At the same time, like every Valorant character, be careful not to overthink it. Sometimes you gotta rely on your gun. And don't forget that you can exit out of most of your abilities and get your gun up if you have to.
Fucking bro.
Deuces.